Hi everyone, welcome to today's English lesson. Yesterday we finished reading the story of the Curse of Cogston House. As I said to you at the beginning of the week, we're going to focus on that text this week and look at some of the features. Next week I'm going to show you a slightly different suspense text, and then we're going to look at the features of that, and we're going to start to plan your own suspense story, which you will then write in the final week before half term. So this week, Cogston House. Next week, different suspense story. Third week, write your own, and it's going to be completely, you can take it however you want to. So today we're going to be looking at similes, metaphors, and personification, because those are three things that you can use in a suspense story to really grip the reader and have a really good effect. And it's something that as year sixes you should be aiming to include in your writing. Now, the purpose of today is to understand what they are, to see how they were used in the Curse of Cogston House, and then to think about how you might use them in yours. They can mainly be used when you're describing a character or a setting, and those are two of the most important bits when you're setting up a story leading into the action. You need to get a good character description and a good setting description. One of the ways you do that is by using these. Now, to start us off, we're going to be having a look at a paragraph correction activity. Now, I'm just going to move me for a minute so you can see. So, what we've got here is we have got a paragraph, and each bit that is underlined links to a number. So for number 1, you would have a look at the bit that's underlined and decide whether it should be A, B, C, or whether it's correct as it is. So for each one of these, you're going to be thinking, right, is it correct? If it's not, which one of these letters should it be? So what I'd like you to do is to pause the video now and have a go at this activity. All you need to do is write the number with the letter next to it that you think is correct. Off you go. Okay, let's start to have a look at it together then. So, let's have a look at number 1. Let's get the pen tool out ready. Okay, so, number 1. Well, it's another rainy day. Well, it's, here, is short for it is. So, it should be C. So, 1 is C. For number 2, I wonder what I will do? Question mark. That seems perfectly fine to me. This is in the present tense over here, so this needs to stay in the present tense. I wonder what I will do is a question, so it needs a question mark. So I would say that for number 2, it's correct as is. Number 3. First, so if we look up here, let me just find the pen. First, I think I'll take a walk around the neighbourhood. Well, the incorrect word here is neighbourhood. We now need to have a look and see how it should be spelt. So, it's definitely not correct as it is. It's definitely not got N-A-Y, even though it sounds like it. It's a bit of a weird word. So it's neither of these two. Neighbourhood, you're nearly there, but it has a silent G-H. So the correct one is A. So 3A. Number 4. Second, I'll cook a big breakfast. Second, will I? No. Second, comma, I'll. Yes, because second is a fronted adverbial. It's telling us when they're going to do it. So even though the I is correct with the apostrophe, they haven't put the comma, so therefore it should be B. Number 5. So second, I'll cook a big breakfast with toast, fruit, eggs, and bacon. Toast fruit, eggs? What on earth is a toast fruit egg? Never heard of it. We need some commas going in there straight away. So this is like we did the other week. Let's have a look. So we've got with toast and fruit and eggs and bacon. No. With toast, fruit, eggs, and bacon. It's nearly there, but you don't need the comma before the and. With toast, fruit, eggs, and bacon. I think we're on a winner. Both B and C are correct. Correct as it is. Now. Some people, and it's not technically wrong, some people put a comma before and. It's called an Oxford comma. And your parents may be sat at home going, no, never use a comma before and. It's technically correct. Technically. But most people don't. Most people would put toast, fruit, eggs, and bacon. So that's the one I'm going to go for. However, you could have had that one. I'll accept either. It's not correct as is. So for 6, after that I might mow my lawn. It's getting pretty long. Now we've got a semicolon in here. Now a semicolon is used when the part that goes after it is directly linked to the part that goes before it. Okay, so it's getting pretty long. So I might mow my lawn. It's getting pretty long. Well, it's definitely not this. And it's definitely not this. So it's either a colon or a semicolon. And to understand what we would use each for, we need to think about when we use a colon and when we use a semicolon. Now, a colon is used when the thing after it directly explains what comes before it. So, I might mow my lawn, it's getting pretty long. The reason they're mowing the lawn is because it's getting pretty long. So therefore, it should be B. But quite often people do use D. They do quite often use a semicolon, but technically it should be a colon. The other thing as well to look out for is that both parts make sense on their own. So after that, I might mow my lawn. That is a main clause. It makes sense on its own. It's getting pretty long also makes sense on its own. Both of them are main clauses, so you can put a colon between them. Number 7. So, moves on to here. I have no idea why she can't just go by herself. Well, it's a bit hard because it goes over 2 lines, so we're not sure if they're linked or not. Herself is a linked word, so it should be like this, but you might have put D because I'm not sure whether it's linked or not because it goes from one line over to the next. So either is fine for that. He doesn't like going to the grocery store as much as I do. Well, I would say it's fine. Or better still, she could ask my dad to go with her. I doubt he will want to go with her though. He doesn't like going to the grocery store as much as I do. Well, the only thing we need to check with this is whether she likes going to the grocery store or not. Because at the moment, what it's saying is that he doesn't like going to the grocery store as much as I do, which suggests that she likes going to the grocery store. So let's just have a quick look. I think she wants me to go grocery shopping with her. I have no idea why she can't just go by herself. She doesn't like going to the grocery store. So it should be, he doesn't like going to the grocery store. I would say it should be he dislikes. He dislikes going to the grocery store as much as I do. Or he enjoys going to the grocery store as much as I do, in that it's a bit sarcastic. Oh, he enjoys it as much as I do. Ha ha ha. That sort of thing. So, there you go. As you can see from this, grammar and punctuation is a bit subjective. What I mean by that is there's not always one correct answer. Quite often there's a couple that could be right, and it's about knowing the rules and applying them the best you can. And what I might say works, Mrs. Woolston or Mrs. Vary might say differently. We can all be correct, and that's what's really, really frustrating about the English language, is that there are more than one way to be correct. It's not like maths, you're right or you're wrong. With writing, it's kind of an area in between. Okay, so I'm just going to move myself back to my normal place up here. There I am. Otherwise I keep looking down here and I should be looking up here, and I really mean to make sure I'm looking over here. So this is going on by itself now. I think it's possessed by the curse of Cogston House. So similes. Similes describe something by comparing one thing to another. Now, the key thing with a simile is it will always use the word technical errors. The key thing with a simile is it will always use like or as. So the children crept quietly as mice, or as quietly as a mouse. The stars sparkled like diamonds in the sky. The engine roared like a lion. The wolf howled as if it were an angry wolf. Sorry, the wind howled as if it were an angry wolf. Now try to describe your own storm. So we can have a think about here some of the different ways we might describe a storm. So you could put, I don't know, the thunderstorm. Apologies. You could put the thunderstorm was as loud as whatever you think. Have a go at completing that sentence. What do you reckon? Thunderstorm is as loud as a, I don't know, a lunchtime in the dining room. That's pretty loud. Well, it isn't very loud at the moment, but normally. Okay, moving on to metaphors. So similes, we use the word like or as. Here comes the possessed PowerPoint again. I'm not clicking, hands free. Metaphors describe, I'm going to read this at my own pace. So metaphors describe something by saying, now this is the important bit, they say it is something else without using like or as. So the children were silent mice, not they were as silent as mice, the children were silent mice. It's saying they are something else. The king was a furious lion, the trees were a prison, the stars were diamonds. Now the important thing is, a metaphor is not when you say, for example, I don't know, the boy was nice. Now you could say to me, but Mr. Kent, it's saying that they are something. Yes, but a metaphor says it's something different to what it is. So if you have a look here, the children were silent mice. Well, they're not actually silent mice, I hope. It's comparing them, but it's not using like or as. So you can't just describe them, you need to compare whatever it is to something else. So if I was doing that for the storm, I could put the thunderstorm was, well, let's have a think. So the thunderstorm was a beating drum. It's not actually a beating drum. I'm comparing, but I'm not using like, I'm saying it is or it was. Personification. So you've got similes, you've got metaphors, you've got personification, and we've got a possessed PowerPoint. So personification describes something by giving it a human feature. So you take something that's not human, and you pretend it has a human-like feature. So for example, the ship shivered at the bottom of the sea. Well, shivered is a human feature. The ship didn't actually shiver. A ship can't shiver. But it's describing it with personification like it can. The grass tickled her ankles. The grass can't tickle you. Just an FYI there. It can't actually tickle you. By describing it like it is, we're using personification. The sun hid silently. I've never known the sun to go for a game of hide and seek. It may seem like it is, especially in the winter, but it's not actually. So again, we're using personification. The wind dashed silently. Again, dashed. The wind isn't in a running competition, it's not Mo Farah, but we're comparing it. So, we could say here, for the storm, well, I could say the storm clapped. The storm clapped overhead. It's not actually clapping, just to clarify here. Personification, I'm saying that it's clapping because clapping is a human feature. Okay, so for the next few slides, I'm going to show you, or the possessed PowerPoint will show you, a few examples, and you need to say whether it's a simile, metaphor, or personification. So, the first one here is a simile, metaphor, personification. We've got the sun was a golden ball in the sky. Have a think, is it simile, metaphor, or personification? Well, the clue is the word was. It's not saying as or like, so it's saying it was, so therefore it is a metaphor. Next one. Simile, metaphor, personification. The snow shimmered like glitter. Well, it's using the golden word there, like. If it's using the word like or as, it must be a simile. The boy was a fierce tiger prowling through the forest. Now, we've got here was, so I'm oh dear. We've got here was, so I'm thinking straight away metaphor. It can't be personification because it's describing a human. Personification only works when you're describing something that isn't a human. So it has to be a metaphor. This one here. The branches clung on to the girl, refusing to let her go. What do you think? Well, the key word is clung. Branches can't actually cling on to anyone, so therefore it's got to be personification. Okay, so moving on. We've got here, think about how each of these made you feel. So, the first sentence is the car was loud. Don't know about you, it makes me fall asleep. It's a bit boring, really. The second sentence, the car's engine roared like an angry tiger, much more powerful, much more interesting. So by using a simile in this case, they've made their writing more interesting. And it's also given me a better idea of how loud this car actually is. You can use that in your suspense writing to make the reader feel more on edge. So here's one that's quite appropriate. You could write a sentence, the children tiptoed quietly. That's okay. This one, however, is much better. The children tiptoed, creeping through the house like tiny mice. The simile in there is adding that layer of detail. And I really like it. I think that's much better. And if I saw that in your writing, I'd be really impressed. This is okay. This, even better. A lot better. So when we come to write our suspense story in the couple of weeks' time, this is going to be one of the things I'm going to expect to see. Let's think about an author. So an author writes a story for a reader to enjoy or to feel a certain emotion. So if an author's writing a suspense story, they want their reader to enjoy it, but also they want them to be a little bit scared, or at least to be a bit on edge and wonder what's going to happen next. They have many ways they can do that. They're quite clever, authors. They know what they're doing. Like with the 1031 thing. They put things in on purpose. So, moving on, we're going to look at the Curse of Cogston House and how we can use similes or metaphors, or how they appear. And this is going to be the first part of your activity for today, so get your pens at the ready if you haven't already. Ready? So, similes or metaphors. Dipping his head and swiping away the leaves like some intrepid explorer, he manoeuvred under a tree branch which hung over the narrow track. So we've got here, like. Now, what I'd like you to do is to think about the image here and pick one of these to help you write a simile about it. So we're using a simile. So you could, for example, take the first one and you could put the forest was as dark as a, and then you finish that off. Okay, so I'd like you to pick one of these, please, and have a go at writing your own sentence with a simile that uses one of these prompts to help you. Off you go. Come back to me when you're done. Okay, let's move on. So, same thing again, but this time we're looking at the outside of the house. And we've got some more prompts to help us. Okay, so same thing again then. I'd like to pick one of these, and again, we're going to be writing it either as a simile or as a metaphor. Now, I'd like you, if you can, to have a go at a metaphor, because it's a little bit trickier. So if we're going to do a metaphor, we could take the house was, a, and then you would finish that off. So the house was a, I don't know, the house was a dark figure. The house was a tower of fear. Something like that. The key thing is you can't use like or as. Have a go at writing a metaphor for me, please. Okay, let's move on. Here's the next one. So you should be on your third sentence by now. Okay, so again here you can either choose to do a simile or a metaphor this time. Use one of the prompts to help you. Okay, entirely up to you which one you went for there. And this one here. This is where she's in the clock and she's seeing her friend outside, but she can't get to her. She's trapped. Now I'm going to go for the air was. So for this one, I'm going to go for the air was. I'm going to suggest that it was. So I'm going to suggest it was like thick, really thick air. So I'm going to say the air was as thick as I don't know, I'm going to put a cloud of smoke. Like that. Okay. So that's the first part of your activity, was writing those sentences. I'm going to show you the main activity now, which is going to be uploaded onto Seesaw for you to have a go at. So let me just move out of here and let's find the activity for you. Okay, so the activity is here for you. Now you've had a go at writing one of your three similes or metaphors for these pictures. So these are ones we just looked at, and I've modelled some examples for you. What I'd like you to do for each of them now, you've got one, is I'd like you to do three for each picture. I'd like you to do one simile and one metaphor, and then pick a third one. It can be either. Okay, so for each of these you need to do 3 sentences. Now, your challenge, for those of you that want to have a go at it, is to see if you can get some personification in there. Now, there's no prompts to help you with that. Okay, but if you can get one of your sentences with a bit of personification, particularly here where we're looking at the trees, remember it's describing a non-human with human features, if you can get one of them with a bit of personification, that's going to be really impressive, and I really want to see that. Okay? Right. Just before we finish, I have a question I'd like to ask you, and I need you to send me some comments on Seesaw for this. I am thinking of doing a book reading session. I might do it live, I might do it pre-recorded, where you can join in and I will read a book in my funny voices. Oh, I think they're funny anyway. It might be a suspense book, it might be a funny book. I will have a vote, but I'm not sure whether you would like that. I'm quite enjoyed reading when I was doing the lessons the last 2 days, and I thought I'd really like to do that some more. And I really like reading to you in class when we're back, but I can't do that at the moment. So I was thinking, well, I could possibly do that if you're interested. If that is something that you would be interested in, where for 20 minutes you just sit and listen to me read, please let me know on Seesaw. Okay, please just send me a little comment or something that says, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And if there's enough of you, then I'll have a go at doing one. Okay? Please let me know. For now, thank you very much for listening. I will see you again whenever the next time might be. Goodbye.